Hey, what's going on, folks? It's time to talk seasonal cycles in Farming Simulator 22. What are your options? How does it work? Let's talk about it. Let's do this thing. Pitter patter. So for those that have been around for a while from past iterations of Farming Simulator will remember Seasons was a mod, but it's changed a little bit. Now, Seasonal Cycles is base game Farm Sim 22, so we're going to talk about everything you got to know to do with that. And of course, folks, if it's your first time in here, welcome in. Make sure you guys check out the rest of the tutorials we'll be doing on Farming Simulator 22. Of course, come and join us during one of our live streams, or maybe one of our roleplay videos where we test out the limits of Farming Simulator, maybe push them a little bit too far at times even. So what does Seasonal Cycles do? Well, just like real life, it basically guides you on when you should be planting or when you can plant and when you should be harvesting. It's all within a real life year span. You need to harvest at certain times, you need to plant at other times, and make sure your crops grow during the off times. That's pretty much the gist of it. So let's talk about the options and settings you're going to get with the seasonal cycles in Farming Simulator 22. Of course, this is our main map, our main settings menu. All down the left, you're going to see our different options. And as we scroll down, you're going to see the first one here. This one here is our crop calendar. We're going to talk more in depth on this in just a little bit. Next up, you've got your weather. Once again, this is all affected by seasons as well. Down here is our crop prices. Also, there is some things that are affected by seasonal cycles in here. Just be aware that we're going to look more at all three of these in just a bit. But first things, let's look at some of the settings that we can change with seasonal cycles. We click on the first one, the tractor sign there. You're going to see we get our main game settings menu. And down in the second little tab here, you've got seasons. Not sure why they didn't call it seasonal cycles, but there's seasons here. So we've got 4 different options that we can change. These are the default settings right now. So seasonal growth may be one of the more important ones. This essentially turns on or off seasonal cycles. So with it being set to on, that means you must adhere to the crop calendar, which, like I said, I'll talk more about in a bit. But what that essentially is, the crop calendar is telling you when you can plant and when you can harvest. You are not able to do either of those outside the windows for planting and harvesting. No matter what, there's certain crops that will change. They have different planting times and different harvesting times, but you have to adhere to what the game is telling you as far as the seasons go. Now, what options do we have on this? Well, we can say, you know what, I don't want this on. And you'll notice that our menu actually changes when we do this. You see that? We switch it back and forth. The crop calendar disappears. So this means it's more like, well, old school farm sim. We can plant, we can harvest whenever we want. We don't have to adhere to no crop calendar. It doesn't matter now. You are up to you when you want to do any of that stuff. The crop calendar, it's literally gone. We do have one more option here, and we can pause the crop calendar. So if we are running behind, say we don't get a harvest done completely and the day is about to change and we're going to lose a chance to finish off a harvest, well, we can pause that from this menu and we can prolong the time for maybe finish that one more field if we need to. Kind of like this option. Didn't see this one coming. All right, next up, days per month. This defaults to 1 day per month. So every time you have an in-game day, that equals 1 month in-game. Yes, that makes sense. 1 day, 1 month. Perfect. So this is equivalent to having 3-day seasons. So you've got three days per season. Then we got 4 seasons in a year, equals to 12 months. All right, that's easy math. But we can switch this all the way up to 28 days per month, which will greatly prolong your seasons. You would have roughly 56 days per month or per season then. So you can actually prolong this quite a long time if you're on a bigger map per se, or maybe some multiplayer stuff where you may want to do this. Just be aware, there's a little bit of a caveat on this. If you're going to make changes to this, you'll want to be well aware of when you can do it. Changes will take effect the next season. So if you are doing a prolonged season, for example, so you had a 10-day season and you're just getting started, you're like, you know what, I want to advance the time on this season. Let's just put it down to 1 day. It's not going to change until the next season. So you'll be waiting that whole 10 days. You'll have to advance time. And the same is true going the other way, of course. If we're on 1 day season, we want to prolong it up to 28-day season or whatever it might be. We still have to get through. If that day happens to advance to the next season, we're going to have to wait another whole day before that change will take effect. So you may end up missing a few. I've run into this problem more than my fair share of times, I freely admit. Now, the next option we have is our fixed visual month. And this one here is a purely visual setting. It has no effect on the crop calendar, has no effect on when you can plant or harvest, any of that. All this does is it tells the game what month you want the game to look like at all times, and it sets it there permanently. So for example, if we want to always be in March and have everything look kind of dried out and dreary, well, we can do that, and it takes effect immediately. So we've got March there. Let's go into the summertime. We got a nice August day. All our trees are now blooming. They look fantastic. But you know what? Hey, you know what? I like winter. I really like winter. Here's December. We got some nice golden trees. No snow, however. The snow still has to fall. It has no effect on when the snow is on here. We still have to have that weather pattern come through. And since we're still dealing with seasonal cycles, the game still thinks we're in, I think, October right now. Might be, I can't remember if it's October or March. Doesn't matter. There's no snow happening in game. We still would have to wait for the snow to fall before it would show up in here, even if we have the visual settings to December, January, whatever it might be. And speaking of snow, well, our last setting has all to do with snow. Here you can simply turn off snow if you don't want it. Snow is defaulted to being on and it lands on the ground. But if you don't want to deal with snow, hey, guess what? Shut that thing off. Don't you wish you could do that in real life? But now, since we are leaving seasonal growth on and leaving our seasonal cycles on like they come normally, let's go back in. First of all, down here, you're going to see this is our weather tab. And it's going to tell you what to expect. For instance, when it's raining, you don't want to be harvesting, of course. So make sure that you check this out every once in a while to see what you have expectations for your weather. We go back up on top here. Our crop calendar is probably one of the more useful tools you're going to find with this, because this tells you when you can plant and when you can harvest. If it's green, that is your planting season. If it's yellow, that is your harvest season. So this will change on the maps as well. Be aware of that. Depending on the location where the geo is set for the map, this can change. But for wheat and barley, you're going to see we're going to be planting in September, October, and wait for that whole other year to pass by. And then come the next year, that's when we're going to start harvesting, or when we'll be eligible to harvest, depending on fertilization, when it was planted, all that fun stuff. Now, the rest of our crops, for the most part, you're going to be planting March and April, maybe a little bit of May as well, depending on what they are, and harvesting in the fall. And lastly, we've got our grass poplar and oilseed radish, which usually planting spring, summerish, and then can be harvested whenever they're ready. So there you go, folks. That is the one main one. Being paying attention to this screen, because this is going to really dictate your flow. So planning things out and being strategic on when to plant and when to harvest, of course, and which crops to plant. This is what you need to consider. You got your wheat crops, your barley and canola, which you're going to be planting in the fall, harvesting a little bit earlier in the summer, versus the rest of our crops, our corns, our sunflowers, soybeans, our root vegetables, going to be planting early in the spring and then harvesting later on in the fall. Just pay attention to that. Now, of course, we also need to consider when the best prices are to get rid of our products. That's going to fluctuate now with seasonal cycles. Of course, it did before, but now it's more defined with seasonal cycles. There's different seasons when things are worth more than others. So, for example, now where wheat today, we don't have any in our storage, unfortunately, but we can see our prices here at all the different places that do accept wheat. We can find out what our prices are going to be. However, if we want to find out when the best price is, or best time is to sell the wheat, we can take a look right now and see this chart. We're in March, I think, or April right now. So it's actually kind of a better price right now than normal, but it's going to drop down as summer goes on, and then come later on in the fall and into winter, the price is going to start rising back up again. So just pay attention to this chart. You want to find out when the best time to sell. So we have some milk right here. When's the best time to sell? Well, probably in October. It's going to be our best price for milk. So we're probably going to hold on to this for a little bit. We're right now into the big drop, and it's going to start raising up later on in the fall. And that's when we should be selling off as much of the milk as we can. So there you have it, folks. That's all the new options for seasonal cycles, the settings, how to set them up. I mean, you can still play Farming Sim 22 just as you always have it. If you want to turn that right off, you can still do that, but there's a lot more functionality and variability now that you can change to make seasons behave exactly how you want. Really do enjoy some of the settings they've changed on that. So if you guys enjoyed today's video, let me know if you guys are playing on base the way it's set up right now, or if you've changed it up, you're going to change it up and play a little bit differently and change how seasonal cycles works, rather than how they've kind of set it up as base with 1 day, or maybe turn it right off. Let me know in the comments below what you guys are going to be doing or are doing right now. Love to hear from you there. Other than that, folks, have a great day, and hopefully we'll see you in the next video. Have a good one, folks. This is Klutch. Over and out.